folks. Welcome to this week's episode of Between Awesome and Disaster with Will Carey. I'm your host, Will Carey. Still not sure if I'm going to go with Between Awesome and Disaster or Awesome and Disaster. Hold on for that. So this week I'm going to share with you a conversation with a guy that I've known for a really long time but have never really gotten to know, and it was a really in-depth conversation, and I got a lot out of it. This week we're going to talk to my friend, comedian Mark Reiss. Mark's a guy that I met when I first moved to New York in 2010 to do comedy, and I would see him around all the time, and then I didn't see him for a couple of years, and I remember him not seeing him anymore, because this happens a lot in a comedy scene, especially one that's as big as New York, where if one club has maybe a 100 to 200 comedian community centered around it, and then you have maybe 10 clubs with scenes of that size, you're going to not see everyone all the time, and you just assume people either quit or they maybe hopefully go on to bigger and better things. But then recently, within the last year or so, I started seeing Mark around at shows again. And his physical appearance changed completely. His attitude was in a much better place. And I wanted to talk to him about where he was during those 2 years and what was going on with him. And he and I got into this really in-depth conversation where I personally got a lot out of it. Emotionally. I know that sounds really selfish, but part of why I want to do this is to connect with people that I know and gain some sort of wisdom that I hope can help me and maybe help anyone else who happens to listen to it, who can relate to what either of us are saying. So we're going to go now to my conversation with my friend Mark Reiss. I'll have links to his social media in the description, and you can, of course, if you want to send me an email, you can do so through my website, willcareyisfunny.com, Carey isfunny.com. And now let's go to my chat with my friend Mark, and I will talk to you afterwards. All right.
I mean, at best case scenario or worst case scenario, you can get like a tape out of it. You know, if you took it upon yourself to record it,
right?
It's a great, and you get a tape. That's it.
Exactly, because a lot of times I think some of the opportunities that you can get from doing that are a little inflated.
Right.
This particular one, a few people told me was legitimate, so that's why I went with that. But I much prefer, I prefer running my own show and promoting that,
right?
Because I can get behind that, you know.
Well, of course, it's your project. If you weren't behind it, it'd be kind of fucked up, you know.
Yeah, and then that leads.
You have some kind of passion behind whatever it is that you're doing. If it's your baby, you know.
Exactly, and that's why, and that I think is a better route because you're more excited about it from the beginning,
right?
You know what I mean?
I mean, you can always force excitement, just push yourself to do something. I mean, that's easier said than done. But I mean, even if you were doing a shitty bringer or whatever, you'd find a way to get excited for it.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, I'm gonna be in this room. Because there's that sort of legitimacy to being a comedian that comes from actually performing at something called a comedy club.
Yeah.
Or on a specific stage or a specific room that.
Right, like Gotham or Caroline. Something that doesn't say comedy club in the title, but it's fairly infamous. Or Dangerfields, but I don't think they're open anymore.
Yeah, I think they are, but I don't know anyone who performs there.
I've never heard of anyone performing there contemporarily.
Yeah,
none of our peers or anything like that.
Yeah, not in our peers. Like maybe one or two people that I would see when I was working the door at another club would have spots at Dangerfields, but I don't think anyone that from like our group,
our level.
Yeah, or exactly our level. So real quick, I want to go back to this.
Are we actually recording right now? Or?
Yeah, I just started that.
We just jumped right in. That's great.
Yeah, that because I like it to come about organic
And that was so organic. I didn't even notice because we were just dicking around with the audio equipment. You're like, oh, this is fun.
They're like,
this
is a cool. This is like a. Oh, these mics are so cool. These dynamic mics are so cool, and you can record such professional sounding audio from a thing that's the size of a cigarette box.
It's a really big cigarette, maybe a small cigarello box. But
cigarellos. I never smoked those, so I'm not entirely sure what those are.
Yeah, they're like, a cigar is basically like 5 cigarettes just rolled into one with tobacco leaf paper, and those are just smaller versions of those. So, but again, I don't like the tobacco shit. I should smoke. I should stop smoking cigarettes. Period. Like I've been trying to quit for a long ass time, but Mark Twain said it best. Quitting cigarettes is the easiest thing in the world. I've done it thousands of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it gets your hooks in, its hooks into you quickly.
Oh yeah,
and then when you try to get out of it, the physical symptoms of withdrawal are just so staggering. But interesting on that topic, I love that the anti-smoking campaigns are adjusting as the times change. Like
they're doing it poorly then.
They are. Have you seen this new Truth campaign?
I don't think so.
It's aimed at people who only smoke on the weekends or give excuses of oh, I only smoke on Saturdays.
I'm a social smoker.
Exactly.
Only after MacGyver.
Only after MacGyver. So they have a bunch of internet memes pop up at people and say it's a trap because they're saying that you'll still if you smoke socially, it's likely that you'll still smoke afterwards. And it has this crazy dubstep music that plays, and it has one of the memes it has is that oh my god. Girl from Oh my god, Goosebumps girl, and she goes oh my god, it's a trap.
Is that really any different than the anti-smoking campaigns from the 90s when you had a rapping dog on a skateboard going hey kids, what's really bogus? Cigarettes. And then they do a rap, it sounds like they're rapping about their sneakers.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that it's always in line with contemporary pop culture.
I think everything that has a health bent to it, and when they're trying to advertise to youth, they just skip completely on advertising. They just have whatever layover people staff they have. Who cares how old they are? They're the ones who are in charge of marketing. It's
right.
Well, my niece Sandy seems to really like this mem stuff, and that's how they kind of find that shit where it's you can't you just get some 21-year-old interns who have a personality to just propose some ideas for you. It's going to be infinitely better than anything you guys come up with.
Yeah, because you're fundamentally not going to understand it.
Exactly.
That's going to be us in a couple of years, I think.
That was me when I was supposed to know that stuff. I remember being a kid and just never being hep to all the contemporary pop culture shit.
Right.
Even 2 days ago was the VMAs and Miley Cyrus. I didn't watch any of that shit.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't give a fuck.
I don't even care anymore.
And I was talking to one of my friends, he was just oh, you hear this one song? It's they play at all these clubs and stuff like that. I'm like, Sam, I'm going to stop you up right there. No, I can guarantee you, no, I have not heard whatever it is you're talking about because I just never gave a fuck. I was always been kind of a loser in that regard.
So you've never felt in line with what everyone else was
not
talking about,
especially with music taste. Since we're on that line, I always just I kind of discovered this, and then I would just listen to that album over and over and over again, and then just barely branch from that. If I did branch, it was slow.
And what would some of those albums be? What were some of those albums that you? What are the albums that you remember hearing and going, "Holy shit, my life's different now"?
The first one that ever did that to me was probably Dookie by Green Day.
Yeah.
The entire album. I think I heard Basket Case when I was on the radio when I was 8, and that was the first revelation moment. It was oh my God, that was the first time music touched me. And then I remember picking up that album and I listened to it the whole way through, and as soon as it was over, I just listened to it again and again and again. Nothing had ever spoken directly to me like that fucking album. Of all the music that was there, that it just hit me at the right place and right time.
I know exactly what you mean. For me, I discovered Dookie a little bit later. For me, it was Blink-182's Enema of the State was the album for me. Just the sound of
it was that song
Crunching Power.
I think it was the song.
That was on there. That was on the album before that. But that's a great song for me. I had heard What's My Age Again. Which has that dun 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 dun.
What's my age again?
And then
my age again?
And then the first song on it on Enema Dumpweed has that really big open E5 chord that rings out, which that open E5 chord is just the sound and heart of good rock and roll.
Right. If you can play like a C, an E, and a G, you're pretty much golden. And an
Yeah.
A, maybe.
Yeah, and then you just play those 4 chords and then just put all of your fucking heart into it.
Yeah.
And you're communicating.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so easy. I mean, we call ourselves a punk band because that kind of justified 2 of the 4 members not really knowing how to play the instrument they were playing.
Mhm.
I was one of those 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I play guitar, but like I played at such a perfunctory level. I've never been able to like keep a beat or anything like that.
Mhm.
But it doesn't matter because you can just someone else could keep a beat. I can keep it along with them, and as long as I can play like power chords, I just fuck around with that.
Right.
My friend Josh, who actually has musical talent, and he was in the band. He was like, "All right, play, bar a C chord, or bar C." I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, what fret? Just tell me the fret number." That's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
So you were in bands growing up in like high school, early youth?
Yeah. Well, I was in not including like school bands and shit like that. Like
Sure.
friends fucking around with 4-track players and just like in our basement. I was in one band from junior year to like junior year of college, and it was just they're my if I ever had like a crew, like my circle, it would be my band, which was the Mildreds.
Mildreds, nice.
Yeah. It was me, my buddy Robert, who actually lives in Queens. He lives a few stops down from you, actually. Just weird happenstance. From Reston as well. He's one of them. And then my buddies Ned and Josh. They're still down in Virginia. And Ned just got married, and Josh is getting married in like a month. And I'm gotta go down for that.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, these are people that I've known literally half my life, and it's just like we go back that far.
Yeah, that's my band from high school. We were called Strictly Tech, and I'm still very much in touch with all those guys. As far as music goes, my old bassist Logan is probably doing the best. His band, they're kind of like a heavy, like a more metal Evanescence, like a kind of a heavier Evanescence.
Okay.
They just played Afropunk, and they're doing they have a lot of stuff going on. So it's really cool to watch him succeed in that, because when I was in a band with him and we were playing like our na like
Yeah.
pop punk love songs, and I was writing the worst lyrics I was writing
How
the
angry
worst
were you
lyrics
at the world?
in high school. Oh, I was angry at everything. But he always wanted to play heavier music, and I'm glad he was doing it. I wasn't angry at the I was angry at the world, but really specifically I was mad at one girl, as they all are.
Of course, it's always that. It's never a pervasive issue with them. It's always just, oh yeah, Sally dicked me over. Blah.
Yeah, which is why not a lot of people form pop punk bands when they get to adulthood. Like you have to start it soon, because afterwards, like now you'd be like, okay, I understand. I'm no day at the beach.
No.
As a person.
I don't think you can, sing and harmonize like, adolescent choir boys. That's kind of a very select thing, unless you're Freddie Mercury.
Exactly. Your voice changes again. You start to get that grit, and and now you're in a Minor Threat.
But I mean, that's why I love punk so much, because it really is just like anything goes. Just do it. It's like rock and roll to such a harder extreme.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even care if anyone hears this music. I'm just going to play the 3 chords that I know I can play as loud and as fast and as hard as I can. And to me, that's punk. And even if it's in your basement. Shit, my band, we played gigs. Like, we did this one gig called the Loading Dock Party, and it was just, we found some office buildings, and I used to skateboard back in the day, so it was just stuff that my friends scoped out. It's like, oh yeah, we can play here. It's like basically a stage, and they have outlets. So my band, a couple of other bands called the Hosers and Stip and Guido. We got like us and a bunch of other people, and we were just fucking rocking out. And the cops broke us up after the first band.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
And this was
punk
in
rock.
Yeah, that's, you got to get shut down. My band, started a mosh pit. Like, we played our pop punk cover of My Girl by the Temptations,
Right.
and bassist's girlfriend and her friend ran down, and then all of our friends from the drama department, because the lead singer was in drama department, so was I.
Sure.
All run down, start jumping up and down. School administration is going crazy, and they say the legend was that was the reason we didn't win. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I like to say that we were DQ'd for rocking.
Rock
So that
and
was
roll
like
high
my
school, man.
ultimate. Exactly, that was my ultimate like rock and roll moment. So this was in Virginia.
Yeah. This was mostly through high school, a little bit through college,
Mhm.
because once we all went to different schools and stuff like that. So it was
What part of Virginia did you grow up in?
Northern Virginia, Reston, so in Fairfax County, just outside DC.
Mm-hmm. And this was like 90s, like late mid 90s.
I mean, I graduated in '04, so it's
Okay.
like the first 4 years of the new millennium. Like my
Okay. Oh,
my
yeah.
high school and college years synced up perfectly with the Bush administration.
Right.
So that's just
Me
kinda
too.
how that
I
went.
graduated in '04 as well. Are we the same age?
I think so. I just turned 29.
Okay, I turned 29 in April.
Okay, yeah, we
Oh
are
yeah,
the same age.
so yeah, we're not too far out. That's why I feel like we're on such like the same similar wavelength.
Yeah.
Definitely like in
For
terms
some
of
reason, I
music.
think I knew we were the same age, but I just didn't make the connection yet.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I heard years ago that we happen to be the same age, and it's just one of those in passing things.
Yeah. Definitely. So okay, so you're in high school. You're playing in pop punk bands.
No, just straight up punk.
Oh, just straight up punk. Okay, I'm the poser.
Yeah, you are.
of the two of us. Okay, so you're playing in punk bands in suburban Virginia.
Mhm.
What's like your family situation at this point? Like what does
What's home life like?
yeah, what's your home life like at this point?
Well, around that time, I think my sister had already gone to college.
Mhm.
So, it was pretty much similar to when she was here, except, her absence. So it was just at that point, my parents and I, and
Mhm.
they've always been the type to work long hours. Even when I was a kid, derisively called myself to my parents' face that I was a latchkey kid. You know what that
Mhm.
is? Yeah.
Yeah, it's when
It's like
you
basically when like a kid is squatting his old house,
Right.
basically, and, no
'Cause
one's
you-
taking care of him.
right, because you're off school before they're off school, so you're just kind of
Yeah.
or off work.
Or off work.
and you're just kind of hanging out before they get home.
More or less.
What did they do?
Retail. My dad sold cars, and my
Mhm.
mom worked various managerial positions in retail. Kind of bullshit. And nothing really fun talking about.
Okay, so long thankless hours.
Pretty much.
Coming home exhausted. Yeah.
Yeah, so I never really saw or talked to my parents all that much. Like, I love my folks, don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
I can say this about my dad. He's not someone I would go to for like advice. Like, I don't shoot the shit with my dad.
No, yeah,
Conversation with him is like strained as hell, and there's no animosity. What are we gonna fucking talk about?
Yeah.
It's hard talking to him. But at my mom, on the other hand, like I go to her for everything. Like a stereotypical gay Jewish guy, it's just like, oh yeah, I love my mom, I'm closer to her, and she's fucking insane. She's a sociopath. I love her. She's nuts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah. She threw a knife at me once. That was kind of funny.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the context? What was the context of that, Mark?
I like just saying it. Yeah, my mom threw a knife at me. It's actually much nicer context. I was making something out of cardboard, a box suit, which is its own story in and of itself. But basically, I
Sure.
was doing an arts and crafts project with this giant cardboard box. My mom was like, "What are you doing?" And I told her. She's like, "Oh, well, put it on." I was like, "Okay, cool." And so I put it over my head, and the cardboard went out about 2 feet from me, from my chest or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Nice, okay, hold still." He just picks up the knife and throws it right at my heart, right at my chest, and it sticks in.
Oh man.
Yeah. She's fucking crazy. I love
Oh,
her.
that's awesome. You should open with that. You should just
I
go
have-
on stage and
I
say
have
that.
so many stories about my mom and just how off she is. But again, I say that with nothing but love in my heart because I say this about my family. Like, I get my lazy from my dad. I get my crazy from my mom.
Yeah.
It's like one of those kind of divides.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they I think you kind of pick up the personality traits you kind of like the most from your
Right.
parents, and then maybe unintentionally pick up the worst qualities, the bad qualities, but you don't notice that till later.
Right.
Because I think I definitely get my sarcasm from my dad, but I definitely get the sort of like laid back, easygoing, sensitive
Right.
part from my mom. And definitely the patience from my mom. My mom was a school teacher for
Oh, God,
over 30 years.
Jesus Christ. If she hasn't died of an aneurysm or an ulcer yet, then she must be made out of like steel.
Oh, yeah. And she's teaching like elementary school.
That's the worst. I hate children.
I can't relate. I've never been around children because I was an only child, so I'd never had like a brother or a sister
Okay.
that I spend a lot of time with. So I don't know if I'm necessarily wired. I don't have the disposition, inclination to like be around kids. Like I'm always nervous that I'm gonna like hurt or upset a kid or or a kid's parents.
Right.
Do you ever wonder about that?
I know. I mean, people have said this to me a bunch of times. Like, oh, you'd be great with children, and I know I am. Like, I can at least I know how to communicate with kids. I know what they're interested in. I know how to not bullshit them. And kids like to jump on me because I'm like a giant walking, living jungle gym to them.
Right.
And obviously my awkward appearance, is kind of a novelty to them. But like, I have no desire to be around children. Like, even when I was a kid, I didn't really like kids. I don't know if that makes any sense. I was always a very like dark and sardonic child. Going quickly back to my parents, like, I wear a lot of black that might might be perceived as goth. It's funny to look at a family picture because like my dad and my sister are wearing like Gap clothing or stuff from whatever, very Old Navy, very contemporary. Unremarkable clothing, and then it's like me and my mom we're both wearing black, and it's not like a goth thing. We're just both we both think it's like chic to a degree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you had that style before, because I think when I first met you, because I feel like we moved to New York around the same time.
09?
010.
Okay.
Are we the same person?
Maybe. I don't know.
Possible. Like we're like different sides of the same coin. Because I remember when I first saw you, I remember you kind of like wore a lot of cardigans and had like very curly hair and thick glasses, sort of like this Woody Allen sort of look. And then I didn't see you for a couple of years, and then you're like, oh, does Mark sing? Because he looks like I should be in a band with him.
I can sing to a degree, but only in my voice. No,
gotcha.
The whole cardigan and curly hair shit. Yeah, I mean, at that point, you probably met me when I was like deep in the closet. I mean,
I
think
my
so. Liver on a daily basis. And
so you're drinking really heavily?
No. I was not meant to imply that. More like an anxiety, eat my liver kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just kind of like internal, like I can't really express who I am, yada yada yada, all that shit. And then you said I disappeared, which is accurate because I took like a 2-year hiatus to like literally get my head on straight.
Yeah.
And I've only been doing comedy again since like maybe almost 2 years. Not even that.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to bring this up with you, but we can go as deep as you want.
Okay.
But I'm sort of curious. I am sort of curious, and I kind of want to get the timeline right to see kind of where you're at now, because right now I actually think you're doing better, like the best stuff that I've seen you do. Like you're very honest in yourself on stage, which is
thank you.
Which is good. And on a good day, I think I'm that. And on a good day, I think I need to be more honest about all of my flaws, because having a girlfriend has helped me see all of my flaws, or having a relationship.
Right.
So so to go back real quick before we go back to the timeline again. We were talking earlier off mic about this idea that a certain safe form of punk comes out of the suburbs and out of non-oppression except for your own surroundings.
Right.
Would you, I know you were playing probably a little bit harder stuff, but would you see that there's something to an environment where there's not much going on that kind of creates a certain level of angst, even when realistically things aren't that bad?
I think so. It's kind of like why a dog would have anxiety when its owners are away. It's like why would a dog be so anxious that it would like rip apart the sheets and the couch and piss and shit all over the place? It's because it doesn't have a direction. It doesn't know what it's doing. It's overstimulated at a resting point because the surroundings are so fucking bland. And I think that's kind of what plays into that. Like quick example, like in June, I went back for my friend's wedding.
Yeah.
And it was Wednesday night, like 9:30 at night. Here in New York, you and I would either be like running around, seeing friends, your girlfriend.
Yeah,
I probably like fucked up with my roommate, like just hanging out. There's something to always do. Shit, when I was back in Virginia, I was like, what the fuck do normal people do on a Wednesday night? It's 9:30 and like I'm going insane. Like the
Right.
was so understimulated. It's like, what the fuck am I gonna do?
Yeah, that's where you need to have cable or an Xbox to live there, because if you can't go out and get into something,
Right. No, that's
yeah,
exactly,
then
I would do that.
you just run in circles. When I was, because the town I grew up in is like a population of under 1,000.
Oh, really?
So really, really tiny. Like a big event, like a big night out for me is when I would go to see a bunch of local bands play.
Okay.
And stuff like that. Because by high school, in between, before I started doing theater, and when I had gotten out of playing sports, I was just sort of didn't have much going on. I was just sort of playing video games and hanging around
Right.
at home, trying to see how many times it was possible to masturbate in a day.
Like, I think my record,
going.
what's your record? Mine's 6.
I think I've gotten up to like 8.
Wow.
But by the end, it's like shooting dust, man. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I assume you're counting an entire 24-hour period. Where it's like, okay, yeah, 12:05. That counts as the new day, and that's number 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you have the thing like maybe like 4 or 5 in, you're just like, I'm not even really enjoing this.
Oh no, you're literally it's like that Green Day song, when masturbation lots of
Yeah,
fun.
exactly.
You
Goes
have
back
nothing
to-
do.
Goes back to that whole thing. And when I first heard that song, I didn't really get what that meant, and then
Oh, I got it instantly.
it started to make so much more sense, and no one had ever just said it
Right.
in a song. I don't even know if anyone said it in a song since.
It's a very blunt approach. I remember listening. I was riding in the car with my mom, and that song, when I was a kid, and that song came out on the radio.
Mhm.
Point blank, my mom's such a blunt, honest woman. She's just like, "Do you masturbate?"
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm like 10. No.
Right.
I did. Shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I started like fooling around when I was like 8, with like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
playing with myself. But no, I'm not. I was not at any point to like talk to my mother about that shit. It would take me like another 10 years before I got to a comfort level or comfort zone where I can discuss that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's about where it took me to, because I hit a point where I started to not give a fuck, and I think every couple of years you hit your new plateau of not giving a fuck.
Right.
So like everything that you're worried and anxious about now is in 5 years you'll be like, why was I worried about that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
Or like breakups and stuff like that. Like at the time you're just like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself. Life isn't worth it. And then 5 years later you're like, I don't even
over that.
over
really?
her?
Yeah.
Or I don't.
It's hard to get out of your head sometimes and see the big picture, and that I think a lot of people would benefit from that, but
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to do. Easier said than done.
Yeah. And I think maybe we as comics kind of have more of a problem with that, because our job is to be in our head and think over things, and if we're dwelling from our own lives, relive our old lives and our past mistakes, because our past triumphs aren't funny.
No. I mean, nothing good is ever funny. I mean, humor itself is a reaction to an absurdity.
Yeah.
You're only laughing at something because something is not right. Something is fucked with your expectation of what should happen in the course of events. I think Mark Twain said it. The secret source to all humor is not joy but sorrow. There is no laughter in heaven. And he's 100% correct. He's 100% fucking correct.
Oh, that no laughter in heaven. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think he's also quoted for saying, it's like, I choose heaven for the climate, hell for the company.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that, because like all those old that old Bill Hicks stuff about like the devil, heaven sounding boring, or like the hell being more fun because that's where all the rock and roll and dangerous music is. Yeah. Isn't it funny that like 50s rock and roll like sounds like really innocent, and you'd play it on like JCPenney Muzak stations now, but at the time it was considered like it was going to corrupt the youth of America.
To be fair, it did. It really did. And I say it corrupted us for the better.
Yes.
Or at least American society for the better. No, I think, kill all golden calves. There are no sacred rules. I'm a whole big believer in that. And
Yeah.
if you can destroy those rules, good for you. If you can't, that's because they stood up for some reason. It must be a truism or something.
Right. And you'll see what rules are important by
By always questioning and
by
pushing it.
by questioning them and then finding out that maybe there's something to that.
Right.
But I think I think a lot of times people are just like, I really don't want to be bothering that, so tell people they can't do it.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, I couldn't do it. What makes you so special? You think you're better than me? You can do it. It's got that kind of attitude.
Exactly. So, kind of go back to I want to chart your chart your growth as a creative person.
Okay.
So you're in high school. You're playing in punk bands. Are you doing any other sort of thing creative?
I did comedy before I did music.
Really? When was that?
I mean, I had been writing since I was 12. That's when I started creating my own original stuff. Before that, I remember the first time I picked up a joke book, I was 8. It was Drew Carey's big book of dirty jokes or something like that. And it's like I memorized all of his big dick jokes, and they were hysterical, and I would use that as social lubricant basically to like get in, because I've always been, and I still am to this day, really bad at like introductions and making friends and all and socializing.
Me
I'm
too.
fucking awful at that. So that I used that as a kid. That was my in. I remember being probably 10 or 11, and it's like summer. I've watched so many Comedy Central specials on TV. I've memorized them all, and I would literally, with the neighborhood kids at night, it's summer, I have nothing to do, I would literally do stand-up when I'm 12. But it's me doing Margaret Cho's bits. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was the only thing that was fucking on at, like, in the middle of the day in the 90s. So it was like me telling these jokes to neighborhood kids, and that's kind of where I got my start, like literally doing that shit.
Yeah. Oh, I used to parrot jokes all the time.
Yeah.
Like I think like when I was first taking like classes like when I was in theater classes in high school, and we would play improv games before I learned like what improv was. I think a couple of times I just quoted Bill Cosby jokes.
Yeah.
Because that's like, but I think a certain level of that before you're actually like calling yourself a comedian, because you have to learn like what the rhythms of
you have to get your stage voice down.
Yeah,
more or less. Like by that, like Lewis Black is a person who has a very distinct voice. He can just take a subject, oranges, who knows, and just whatever it is that he has to say about it will naturally come out through that voice, like it's an equation or something like that. X is this, orange. Y is the joke, and he's just that machine that knows how to crank that out. And
exactly,
it's really natural and organic. And until you develop that voice, until you have your cadence and your rhythm down, and what you do as a performer that's funny, until you know that, you're just kind of you're shaping it, you're discovering on the go.
Exactly. And you're drawing a lot from the comedy that you're seeing and trying to almost like trying on things.
Right.
So Margaret Cho was one. Any other specials that you remember? Because I've had this I think I was talking, who was I talking to? I might have been talking to Kevin Frolix actually, and we were just talking about just binge watching back when Comedy Central used to have a bunch of half hours in a row, and you just watch like 3 or 4 of them. What were some of the other ones that you remember?
I'm trying to remember. There were like the first season of Comedy Central Presents. So there were stuff like Greg Proops, I remember. Again, the Margaret Cho special. I think I saw Mitch Hedberg's Comedy Central special.
Yeah.
They played that a lot. Trying to recall some other ones. I think Todd Barry came out a couple of years after, a few seasons after, but it's still one of those kind of like proto, Comedy Central specials that I saw and memorized and thought that, oh my God, this is brilliant. Have you guys ever heard of this dude, Todd Barry? No. Oh, okay. Well, I can do his jokes then. That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's... Yep.
But again, when I say do jokes, I mean recite them to my friends in freshman year of high school. I'm not performing at this point, but...
I know exactly what you mean. Before I did stand up, I was being funny in theater classes, or always like thinking. I didn't do stand up until like my last year of college.
Oh, really?
Is when I got into it, which I feel is late for a lot of other people that we know. Like that, like Suba's been doing it since she's like 15.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple of other examples which might be escaping me.
The first time I ever did a mic, the first time I ever was on stage was 2009. So I was 19, I believe. Or I'm sorry, 2005. So I was 19.
And was that in Virginia?
That was in D.C. at a fucking coffee shop in DuPont Circle.
Was it Caribou Coffee by any chance?
It was not Caribou Coffee. I think it was just like a one-off local thing.
Oh, okay.
But I fainted and fell off the stage. My first time ever up. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, it turned out to be a great thing in the long run. Well, you want to hear the story? It's
Yes, I would. Yes, I would, Mark Reiss.
Oh my God. Okay, so December 19th, 2005. I go into the city. I have my bits that I work out, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna try it for real this time. After all these years, I'm gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I go there. I have no idea how to present myself. I have no idea who the scene is. It was again my first exposure to what a scene, the comedy scene, at least in DC in 2005, was like. So
Right.
I didn't know what to expect. I was super nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the comics who went on ahead of me were awful, and they were just bombing. Like the guy who went on before me, he ended with like his version of the Aristocrats, which involved an aborted fetus. Classy and original, I know. He real knee slapper all around. So
Yeah.
he bombs, and I go up.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to follow. Is a failed abortion joke.
You know, setting the bar really low.
Mm-hmm.
But I go up there, and I'm doing my shit, and the thing is, I'm actually doing okay.
Mhm.
Like I'm everything's delivered fine. I'm getting a few chuckles and stuff like that, and I'm not killing the room or by far, but like I'm not dying. And I remember just being like, dating is really, oh shit. And that was the point I lost consciousness. I blacked out at that point. I fell to the side, fell off a little high rise that I was standing on, smacked my head on the corner, and I was out. Like I literally smacked my head falling on a wooden table. And apparently no one did anything for 20 seconds. They thought it was part of the act. So like all these comics are just like looking around like, who's in on this bit? No. Okay, he really okay, let's go help him.
He really
And I remember waking up going like, fuck, how did I get back into my room? What's this tangled around me? And it was the mic cable in my eyes. And I was like, oh shit, I'm still here. And then everyone's around me. And I was like, the host is like helping me up. He's like, all right, everyone give it up for Mark Reiss, everyone. It's like some real trepidation. I go over to my table, and I am mortified. I am so embarrassed. And I think one of the owners or the guy working the counter is like,
Right.
are you okay? Do you want some water? He's like, I could go for some water. He went and got some water. And he's like, I want you to know, I called the ambulance. Are you okay? Because I didn't know what to do. I was like, no, can you call them back and cancel it? I don't need an ambulance. I'm fine.
Right.
I don't know if I can. It's like, please try. And that was when the ambulance showed up, interrupting the entire mic and the flow of whoever was on stage. So I had to go outside and deny medical treatments from the EMTs while the mic was still going on. They didn't even bother driving away. I was like just right there.
Did they turn the lights off at least?
No, not at all. And I told the EMTs, it was like this big fat white guy, this big fat white lady, and this big fat black guy. And I told them who I was and what had happened. And they thought it was fucking hysterical. They were taking like an EKG. Like one of them took the graph of like my heart palpitations and he ripped it off and he held it up to my face. He's like, "See, who says white boys don't have rhythm? Ha 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 ha." And I just fucked off from that. I went home and I told my mom what had happened. She's just like, "Well, can't do much worse than that now, can you?" And I was like, you're fucking right. I really can't do worse than that. That was as bad as it gets.
That's the worst thing that
is the
can
worst
happen.
fucking thing that can happen. And I was like, you're 100% right. So then 2 nights later, I went up at a completely different room. It was Wiseacres, and that was like my home room.
I remember Wiseacres.
That was my home club for a while. I went up. And apparently everyone knew who I was because, people blogged about it and it was like, open mic or down, ha, ha, ha. And so I was getting, I had some sort of infamy associated with me already, right from the get-go. And I went up and I killed. I fucking slaughtered the entire room.
Nice.
And that's kind of how it started, just doing that shit. And I going from one extreme to the other. But it really helped, getting that shit out of the way, just bombing and eating it as hard as you fucking can.
And hurting yourself. It's a good thing that didn't become like your hot pockets, like the thing that's like, oh, is he gonna fall down? Because that's actually a perfect bit if you're like dating is like, and then you just fall down.
And here's the kicker to that story, and it is I ended up fainting. It would be 2 more times total, so 3 total. I fainted on stage doing comedy.
Oh, jeez.
And it's all because before I actually started seeing a therapist, I had so much anxiety and shit going through my head. I didn't know how to process negative emotions, and I don't know how to process and calm myself down and like literally get myself into a right state of mind to interact with human beings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Can we talk more about this? Like,
sure.
Because that sort of panic race and anxiety race that races through your body when you are uncomfortable around other people and like going to therapy. What are some of the things that like you've learned to counteract that?
Oh man, I have so many tools at my disposal. Well, first off, the prescription Klonopin that I have, which are benzodiazepines, they're downers. They'll bring you down. That's actually a very common script to performers who have like performance anxiety, which is apparently what was triggering mine. But actually, there are a bunch more deeper issues going on, but I'm not going to get into that.
Sure.
I used to hyperventilate into a paper bag when I would go to Mike's in D.C. That was awful. I read a self-help book that has a lot of tips on like, okay, well, here's why you're fucked up and feeling all this shit, and it explained everything. I'm like, oh, wow, that's brilliant. And it's like, okay, here's how you can counteract it. And it's a lot of it is just like, affirmations, and like I say these 5 fear facts, and they're just kind of stuff that I tell myself over and over again to just not be intimidated by any situation. And that always helps. And also just having a network of people that I know I can call and shit like that whenever, because it's not just like anxiety just springs up on you. It's always kind of background music to the day. So if you're in a bad state of mind and how your body's going to react to that. So I know I can, if I'm having a bad day, I can call my mom, just talk to her, and she knows I'm fucking insane. I know she's crazy. So it really helps out that way.
So having a healthy support support circle, and then having like almost like a ritual, like a thing that you can come back to. Like, I don't know what the 5 things you say to yourself are.
I read a book that basically it's called Feel the Fear but Do It Anyway. And it's talking about how like all these negative emotions that we have are anxiety or fear based, and we're holding that fear wrong, and it's mainly an issue of relearning how to process that information. And I thought it was a brilliant book because it was written in the 70s, and I'm a neuroscience major, so I took a lot of psych. I know a lot of the underlying neurochemistry and neurophysiology behind the depression pathways, and how to counteract that.
Like the actual chemical process that happens in the brain.
Yeah, and like what centers are being affected and how it travels, and what what real basic parts of your midbrain, basically part of your reptilian brain, which are such ancient organs in your parts of
like
of
the
this
really
organ.
base kind of instincts.
Exactly.
Like the real caveman animal, fight, kill, flight.
It's been interesting that you say fight or flight, because anxiety is basically your fight or flight response going haywire because it's perceiving some external threat. And that's actually your sympathetic nervous system. That's the one that the fight or flight, and parasympathetic brings you down. Oh my God, it's fun talking about neuroscience.
No, this is fascinating to me, man. Like the science behind all this stuff is really interesting to me, because when I have anxiety or stress at the time, I think I'm just losing my mind.
Right.
So like the sympathetic nerve system is sympathetic nerve system is where anxiety gets triggered.
Yeah, that's the fight or flight response. That's when your nervous system is at a heightened state of alert. You're not diverting a lot of physical energy towards digestion, towards peripheral sight. Your eyes narrow, or they contract or constrict, whatever the hell that is.
Like tunnel vision.
Exactly. Whatever the opposite of dilate is. You're focusing. Imagine like a cat when you spook it. Its eyes get it's in a heightened state of alertness.
Exactly.
And also your brain is going 1,000 miles faster, so you can just process information a lot quicker. If you've ever been like in a car crash or something where it's like an intense situation, that feels like an eternity, doesn't it?
It goes so slow.
It's remarkably how slow it goes.
Yeah, and then when it picks back up, it's like you're stopping a VHS tape. Yeah, it's really, really fascinating how that happens. Everything just completely slows down. Is that your brain?
No, that is your brain is processing so much information, it just seems slow. You
Uh-huh.
can just apparently we can function at that level, but just not constantly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not healthy either way. It's just too much stress on the brain. But like
Mhm.
when those instances do come up, you're
Yeah.
you're basically that guy from Limitless
Yeah.
for like literally an iota of in a second.
Yeah, like you're using more of your brain than you normally would.
I wouldn't say more of, because that's a misnomer. You don't use just 10% of your brain. That's
right.
that's fucking crock.
Yeah, I
That's
think
a
I
crock
knew.
of
I think I
bullshit.
knew that. I think I read that on IMDb about the movie Lucy.
Yeah. Wait, Lucy?
I think that's what that movie's called, with Scarlett Johansson.
Nah.
She plays. We'll look that up in a second.
It's tangential.
Uh-huh.
How that relates to your fear, though, is like, again, you're not processing whatever you're perceiving as a threat right.
Mhm.
So that it comes down to like realizing, okay, I'm in a heightened state of badness.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And then you have to answer what it is that you're nervous about, whether it's like, oh shit, I have a wedding to go to and there's Uncle Jim Bob's going to be there. I really don't want to see touchy-feely Jim Bob uncle.
Mhm.
You have anxiety over that or anything else. It's basically all that shit, fear, depression. They're derived from a sense that you can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what it is. That's the root of all those issues, is like whatever the situation is, you won't be able to handle it.
Yeah.
All of the fear techniques, the 5 things that I repeat myself with that are based off that. So the first one is like the only way to get rid of the fear is to go out and do it. The only way to feel better about myself is to go out and the first one is like, the fear will never go away as long as I continue to grow. And that's a fact. You will never not be scared or anxious or anything like that. You will always be there. You just get better at mitigating it.
Right.
That's all there is to it. Because I'm sure you were scared the first time you get on stage. I'm sure you could still get scared. But
Yeah.
you've done it so many times. You know for a fact you can handle the worst of the worst. So you're not as scared anymore.
Yeah. The worst thing that can happen has happened, and I'm still here.
Exactly.
So what am I to fear about? What am I afraid of?
Exactly. So it's like, no matter, the fear will never go away as long as I continue to grow. That's number 1. Number 2 is the only way to get rid of the fear is to go out and do it. So you have to actually repetition, go out and do it.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to feel better about myself, number 3, is to go out and do it. Number 4, not only will I feel fear in new situations, but so will everybody else. Fact. Open mic, doesn't matter. If you're nervous and there's another person there who's new, they're probably nervous as well. You're not the first person to be scared of situation A in the world. Other people will be too. And the 5th and final one is shit. Damn it.
No, it's okay. Those first 4 are amazing, dude.
The fifth one. God, give me 2 seconds. Why can I remember it?
This is an example of the brain being overwhelmed. It's like when you have too many tabs open on a computer.
Yeah, it's like me trying to think of the answer too hard. It's like, oh, why is it not coming?
Well, if you think of it, you message me and I'll put it at the end before.
I have to say the sentences over again in my head because it's really like a song at that point. It's like
Yeah, totally.
How does the cadence go in my head? Okay, the fear will never go away as long as you continue to grow. The only way to feel better, good making fear go away is to go and do it. The only way to feel better about myself is to go and do it. Brain fart. Fuck it. Move on. Move on.
Oh no,
I'm
it's
so embarrassed right now.
It's it's cool. It's cool. I can chop this down. If you think of the 5th one, message it to me and I'll add it.
Okay.
Because but those first 4 things that's incredible. It's for me a very logical way of breaking down what you're afraid of and then conquering it.
Oh yeah, that's something I've been searching for the longest fucking time, and it turns out it was in a self-help book in my parents' basement since before I was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you discover that book? Was that a relatively recent discovery, or is that something you've had for a while?
I'd say about a year and change ago is when I read it. I read it about maybe May of 2014, roughly around that area. And since I've read it, I've given it to 3 other people, all guys, and they've all said, yeah, this is full of really good shit. And right now, Daniel J. Parafan is reading it.
I might ask for to read it.
It's a really
Next.
fucking good book. As far as like helping you sort yourself up. I mean, that's not to say I'm not cured. I still get fucked up all the time.
Oh,
but
yeah.
again, it's just another tool at my disposal to help mitigate whatever bullshit I'm going through.
Right. Because I imagine I imagine there's times when you didn't always have those tools and you're
No.
a little overwhelmed. So this is kind of what I want to get. I kind of want to get into. So you're doing comedy in Virginia and outside of DC. And how long is that before you moved to New York?
So yeah, I started in 2005. I was in college, so clearly when I was at college, I wasn't performing, so it was mainly a summer thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I graduated in 2008. I was on federal probation for a year, so I couldn't leave the eastern half of the state of Virginia until my probation was over.
What was that about?
Possession of marijuana on federal property. So, it's all jurisdiction based. So I had to go to federal court and stand in front of a federal judge and go through federal probation. That's the system getting you. Yeah. Oh my God, I got eaten up so bad. But
oh jeez.
So I did that. So I was in Nova for a year. I was a regular house comic at Wiseacres.
Sure.
Was there for a year, and around September of 2009, I'd say. So about coming up on 6 years. I had a job. I went home on my lunch break because it was like a mile away. I got stoned as shit. Went back to my office, and I was like, fuck all of this. So I just went over to my manager and I was like, hey Donna, I'm giving you my 2 weeks now. I'm moving away. She's like, oh, where are you moving? And I just said New York because I really didn't have a plan at that point.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, New York. And after I thought about it, I was like, yeah, that actually makes sense. Let's plan around that. So I as soon as I did that, I contacted a few people on Craigslist, checked out a few rooms. I went up there very temporarily. And then October 1st, 2009, I got on a bus with the backpack and a suitcase full of my shit and just moved to New York. That was it.
Yeah. That was only a couple of months after me. That's probably around that fall is probably when I started singing around the creek and a few other places.
Yeah,
the
probably.
Creek and the Cave, Long Island City, Queens. So what was like... I'm always curious about this too, because for the longest time when I first moved to New York, I always felt, and with comedy, I always felt like I either no one really cared that I was there, or I was trying to just kind of feel like I belonged. What was your experience when you first moved here and were doing mics and shows?
Well, first off, your feelings were correct. They didn't care about you. No one cares about new people. They didn't care about me. So that's how it is. You really do have to fight for your place in the scene and to be accepted. And by fighting, I mean going out as often as you can, bringing out your funniest shit, putting out your A game as much as you can, and being as social as possible, and being able to do that day after day after day. So that means being able to start a life here and live here. Because no one gives a shit if you're only here for like a month or the summer.
Exactly.
Like, what's the point? I mean, the summers. There's a million people who are out of school and they want to try. You want to try comedy the first time.
Yeah, my other favorite part of the year is in January.
Really,
when everyone makes their New Year's resolution to do comedy. There's like 50 people at a mic, and then you're just sort of like, oh, when are they going to stop?
Like,
I hope but the ones who stick on, good. I feel good for them. You know, they could. We're all struggling. We're all afraid. We're all insecure about where we're going, but we're all just kind of doing it together.
Exactly. Like I said, rule number 4, and even if you're not the only one, that's basically rule number 4.
Yeah.
Of the fear of facts. Everyone is, no matter what feeling you have as far as the scene or acceptance or if am I funny or not, everyone is like that. Everyone has those same concerns, and that's actually kind of a humbling thing. It's like, okay.
Exactly.
I know I'm doing right. It's fine. No matter what, you're handling the situation normally.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So let me. I am very curious because the name of this podcast I'm going to call is Between Awesome and Disaster. So when I first thought of that idea. Because I know we've talked a bit about this before. Your how you kind of were away from comedy for a couple of years, figuring out your
basically
your life.
Yeah.
So I am really curious about what that time was, what your struggles were, and how you were able to pull out of that, and how you got through it and got back to comedy. And again, we can go as deep as you want. I'm not interested. I don't want to make you cry.
Well, you're lucky because I just had a therapy session today, so I already got all that with a new therapist that I just met. So it's like, here are all my demons. Here's every single skeleton I piled up.
Yeah, I had the first therapy session a couple weeks ago, so it's sort of like hey, here's everything that makes me sad.
That's pretty much all you can do at that point. I had to really sort out a lot of underlying pervasive issues, namely with my dad. I had a lot of unresolved issues with him. He was very much a emotionally absent father. That's not to say I know for a fact he loves me so much it's insane. But at the same time, I have no relationship with him. I don't shoot the shit with him. I don't go to the woodshed with him. Whatever, apparently that's a phrase.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what dads are supposed to do, so it's like forgiving him, because he didn't know what the fuck to do. I mean, this is stuff that I had talked about. This is all resolved mostly, and I had discussions with him about it. It's just like I have no resentment towards him. It was just like me accepting the fact that like he didn't do what I needed as a child, needing from a father figure.
Sure.
So it was a lot of acceptance of that. Acceptance of myself and all the bullshit, because like again, I was closeted. I didn't want to admit anything to myself at that point. I was really self-conscious about how people perceived me and looked at me and all that fun shit. And it was like it was like a 2-year process of just like getting all that nonsense out of my head.
Right. This is fascinating shit to me, because I've overwhelming trauma or detachment from your dad, who's supposed to be like an important figure in your life, is something I can definitely relate to. And how are you able? And then I sort of want to get an idea of how you wrestled and came to terms with your sexuality. What were some of the things that you were able to say? What were you able to come to terms with as far as forgiving your dad for things that you were angry at him about?
You learn that individuals are not going to be able to fulfill every single expectation, no matter who that individual is. So you learn to appreciate people for who they are, what they can offer you. Right. It's you can have asshole friends, and you like them. They're your joke friends, but you won't necessarily go for them, to have a deep conversation. On the flip side, you probably have some weepy friends that all you do is just talk and talk and talk. And it's like, you want to hang out? You want to go do something? No, I'm kind of in. Again, you just learn to appreciate people for what they can do. And you just kind of forgive people for shortcomings, especially if they weren't intentional.
Right.
I mean, he never did any wrong by me. He never intentionally fucked me over or anything like that. No, again, he's a very, very kind, very sweet, very loving man. But he just does it he's a very stubborn, idiosyncratic person. So he does everything at his pace.
Sure.
That's how he operates. And I know that. And I come from a whole family of very stubborn, independent people. My mom is stubborn and independent. My sister is stubborn and independent. I am stubborn and independent. Yeah. That's just kind of the environment that I was raised in. So a lot of that 2-year hiatus was like getting that shit out of the way. Again, coming to terms with my sexuality and being able to talk about that as like it was a natural thing.
Right. Because did you feel like you knew that you were gay, but were kind of wrestling? Were you wrestling with it?
I was to a really large degree. I remember I had a very traumatic experience in elementary school where I was like just teased relentlessly for being like queer. Even though I didn't display anything that would be conceived as,
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I was the kid that got called faggot for all fifth grade, just because that was the word that kids were using, and that was what they perceived.
Yeah.
So you had
it just hurt a lot more because they were actually saying true things, and I didn't realize it at the time. I think I did subconsciously.
Right.
But it was something that I would not allow myself to look at and deal with. even though there's like, telltale signs a lot, throughout my life. It's like, oh yeah, keep on going towards Fagtown. Like that's you are the mayor, you're running there. So pointing me in that direction.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it was just I don't know. It doesn't matter. I know my parents are really cool and open, liberal people. If I told my mom, she didn't really give a shit. My dad, haven't had this conversation yet with my dad. So things are going to be really interesting in October when I go down for the wedding and I bring like the guy that I'm seeing. He's going to be my date. It's like, oh yeah, Dad, we never really formally talked about this, but yeah, here's Theo.
Is his name Theo?
Yeah.
Okay. It seems like when people when comics just do this stereotypical like gay
David.
joke or like David or like that's just like one of the names.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
So you were able to the same maybe I don't want to draw exact parallels to this because I don't think it's the exact same thing, but you were almost able to almost the same way you were able to forgive other people for your shortcomings. You were able to. Did you have a moment where you said to yourself, where you were gonna realize you were gonna like, this is who I am, and this is how I'm gonna live?
To a degree,
well, not this is how I'm gonna live, but I'm not gonna hide it anymore.
Exactly. I mean, you just get to a point where you're sick of all the bullshit, and I reached the point where it's like, okay, this is kind of who I am. I can just talk about it now. It doesn't really matter. I got to a point where it's like, if someone wanted to fuck with me, I was just like, you want to fuck with me? I'll fuck with you back. Like there's nothing I really should be ashamed of. No matter what I do, I'm not really ashamed of it. I don't regret anything I do. I regret stuff that I didn't do. So yeah, after all that, and I felt confident enough to go back on stage, because at that point, I was still doing relationship material. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel right talking about that shit. I didn't have anything to say.
Right.
But as soon as I got back, like the first thing I talked about on stage was just like being gay and shit like that, and my sexuality. And it was really scary because it was the first time in 2 years I was going back to a scene that I hadn't been in a while.
Right.
And I was kind of intimidated by some of the people who were floating around at that time. And so I kind of fucked off. But no, I went up, I did my shit, and I got off stage. And it wasn't until a week afterwards I was just like, did I just come out to everyone on stage? I guess I did. All right, cool. How about that? And I wasn't even thinking of it in terms like that. It was more like, okay, this is what I want to talk about because it's relevant.
And
now
it's
I made
relevant
it funny.
to you.
Yeah, because it's the pertinent stuff that's going on in my life right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I just talked about it, and like I do with most of my shit, it's just like conversational, talking about whatever it is that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after the I wasn't trying to make a statement or anything like that. I was just like, this is where I've been, motherfuckers, for 2 years. It was just more like, okay, I'm finally comfortable enough. I think this is my voice. This is what I feel like talking about, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah. And that's got to be a really great feeling to come back and then just to have that comfort with who you are, and then to be that on stage.
Oh yeah, God, it's the metaphors for like a weight off your shoulders is true, because you do carry that around with you subconsciously, and you probably contort your body without even realizing it, like hunching over and
like the physical symptoms of the anxiety, or just like that feeling of when you're bottling up something,
exactly,
and it physically manifests itself, and you start to like feel it in like your chest. And
that's
your
how you
mind.
get like ulcers and stuff like that from stress. It's
Yeah,
just like you're not processing. You're not your body's not right, basically.
Yeah. Fucking A, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck. No, I love conversations like this. I don't get to have these like that's so fucking good to like hear you say that, and like to see someone have that kind of relief. It's almost like the same way you see someone do comedy, you're like, oh, I can do that. Seeing someone get through intense troubles and anxieties that they're having, and come out on the other side of it, and then still be able to do the thing that they want to do. It's really great to see.
I kind of have a bad habit of forcing myself into sink or swim situations. I've always done that. Like even I learned to swim that way by jumping into the deep end. It's sink or swim. So I'm a huge believer of trial by fire and just going for it. And you know what? You crash and burn. You put yourself in a situation where you have to act, because because if you don't, that's your ass.
Yeah.
It's kind of a procrastination thing. I don't know, but I kind of do that with a lot of aspects of my life where it's like, okay, I kind of have to perform now.
Yeah.
I kind of have to do that shit. I cannot keep going on without a sound ship of mind. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So I had to do that. It was just a priority. So I saw a therapist, weekly. And yeah, it was a process. I knew that had to go down just as much as I needed a job and I needed a place to live. There was just requirements.
Yeah, those are the basic things you need to be a functioning human in the world.
I mean, therapy is something that I knew I needed when I was like a kid, when I was in elementary school, because I remember distinctly like going to the guidance counselor's office a lot just because it's like I could not deal with these people, like my peers and stuff. I just cannot deal with it. I need to like remove myself from the situation. I'd hang out there a lot. So many other instances of just me. I knew I needed to see someone. It was just like an untreated problem. It was like an infected toe that got so bad, like I got blood poisoning.
Right.
So it was just one of those issues. And finally, I was just like, God damn it, I need to talk to someone professional. And I just knew that in itself would lead to help. But I also didn't want to go because I'd be confirming every single stereotype. It's like, I'm going to be a comic and talking about this in 15 years to a therapist,
Right.
Yeah, it's either to be on stage or, to a therapist. And I was confirming everything. So.
Yeah, I definitely had those kinds of reservations. So I remember not wanting to admit. I remember a lot of times not wanting to admit that I needed help. It's like, no, I got this. Meanwhile, there's just this like ache.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't got this, but I got to make sure everyone thinks that I do.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, bravado does give out. And sincerity will come through. And, that happened for me. If you can talk honestly and bluntly and without any shame, the stuff that normal people would feel ashamed of, that's more power to you. And that's what I try to do all the time when whether I'm talking about, the issues that I have with my family or any kind of struggle that I had to go through. You just be open and honest with it. And, people will relate to it if they can. And if they can, and if they're dicks, then they're not worth your time.
Hey, Mark.
Hey.
Hell yeah, dude.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. That's really fucking beautiful, man. And
Can I have some of the weed you're smoking, please?
This conversation I think that's a really lovely way to start to wrap this up. Thank you for talking to me, man. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Yeah, I was gonna say something about like cross dressers and stuff like that, because it was tangential to whatever point I was trying to make. But I just wanted to say that like I always had such respect for them, and especially transgendered people, because. As much as I physically stand out in a crowd, they have always been the front lines of any kind of bashing. You know what I mean? They're the obvious easy targets. So to be open like that and to, I'm going to be a cross-dressing, transgendered, whatever, and I'm going to sing and do it, and to know what kind of people there are in the world and who will fucking, shit all over you. I think to go out and to do that takes so much fucking balls. It's like one of the most bravest, manliest things I can think of is to be like, I'm going to wear a dress today. Fuck everyone else. That takes balls. That is one of the manliest things I can fucking think of.
I think that is the most manliest thing that one can think of.
Yeah. I remember someone asked me, it's like, what do gay people do on dates? And the simple answer is anything they want.
One of my favorite, this reminds me of one of my favorite jokes, and I have a couple more questions for you, Ben, and then we'll forecast our pinball team's championship run.
No, I wanted to get into pinball too.
Good. One of the first jokes I remember, I can't remember how old I was, but it was on Jim David's Comedy Central Presents.
Yeah.
Probably the first, maybe around the time I was starting to learn what the concept of being gay was.
Right.
And he was the first, probably the first gay comedian that I saw. And he's not, and he comes out later in the special when he starts talking about the men he's with.
He's the one who had that joke about, bringing his Jewish boyfriend to Israel.
I can't remember if that was it, but I think he, um, I think he might have also had. There's also this other joke that originated somewhere, and then a few iterations of heard out. It ended up in a couple of different places. The whole they should put all the gay people on an island. They did. It's called Manhattan.
Yeah.
But the joke he did was and it's on line with what you're talking about. He's this joke about his father asking him, "What do you do?" And then his response is, "Well, Dad, you know all those things you want Mom to do, but she won't."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
we're thinking
what
of the
we
same person. Yeah.
Yeah, that joke has stuck with me for probably upwards of 15 years.
It's a good one.
It's such a good one, because I do think that everybody who's like really virulently against homophobic, deep down, there's either some curiosity within themselves that they never addressed,
right,
or there's something that they want to try, but Margaret said no.
Exactly.
And everybody's and
I'm
every
gonna
wife
propose-
in that situation is named Margaret.
I would, or Patty or something. I'm going to propose one more theory, and those people are also, some of them might just be straight up ignorant because they've never met anyone outside of like their shire of a fucking town in Kansas or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Whatever
again,
close-minded small.
exactly. They were
world
probably
they live
raised
in.
with hate. Their dad probably, or they were probably molested as a child by someone, and then it's like, oh, he must have been gay, and hate everyone from that. I know that can happen.
Right.
But a comic, one of the first comic friends that I had in the community, he was a booker at Wiseacres, and a very good friend of mine to this day, Mike Diesel. He confided some very information I'm not going to get into, but it's just like I was so happy that he kind of opened up to me on that level, because it was like he's much older than I am. He's very much like a father figure in comedy scene.
Yeah.
He's easily like 45 when I started comedy. No, and his frankness and openness about something so raw and personal, and it wasn't even a bit. We were just talking, and it was something that stuck with me and appreciated.
Yeah.
That you can, if you talk about that shit, you will find your audience. You can
Exactly.
Someone will be receptive to it.
Yeah, and it's the kind of audience that I think will stick with you for a while.
Yeah.
Like the kind of audience that you have like a real emotional connection with, I think, is the kind of audience to have, even if it might not necessarily be the largest. Might not be if you have like 60,000 people that you have a deep connection with. Those 60,000 people will follow you forever. I think, compared to maybe a million, compared to like maybe if you're the hottest thing in the world, millions of people love you. That might not be the case in 2 or 3 years.
Right. I mean, you could just be a flash in the pan thing. I mean, as far as comedy goes, the goal for me has never been fame. It's always been independence.
Yeah.
I mean, my goal has always been to just never work in an office building again. If I can make a living doing comedy or writing in any kind of respect, that's my definition of success. Where it's like I don't have to supplement it with anything. This is my life. This is what I love to do, and I can live off of it. It's not just like an after-school hobby or just something that we're chasing as a fevered pipe dream. It's like, no, this is my life. That's been the goal. Independence.
Yeah, me too. Just the ability to say, this is who I am.
Right.
Like, this is who I feel like I am, and then to actually be it is really what I want, and it sounds like what you want too. And I think a few more years of and I think we're both on the right path, at least as far as real shit. Fingers crossed.
As far as communities go, I've never felt a kinship to any of the communities I subscribe to. Gay, Jewish, nerdy science people. I am all those things, but when I'm in a room full of others, I'm always the one that stands out. I've never felt kinship until open mic comedy. I met other comedians because it was like the first time I met people. It's like, you guys are fucked up in the exact same special way I'm fucked up. Some sort of narcissistic drive to be on stage and talk about the most embarrassing fucking thing in your life. What on earth compels you to do that? And that's why I love comedy, because everyone is so different, comes from such a different background, us excluded. And
Right.
and you can just have those conversations, and it's just like there's a common thread that unites us all. And that's, again, the only time I've ever felt like part of a community is comics and other comedians. I've never felt that way with gays. I've never felt that way in a synagogue. I've never felt that way at college. I barely feel that way with my own family. Comics, they're the extended family that I don't know. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I can walk into a fucking comedy club in, Nome, Alaska, or Istanbul, or L.A., and it's like, you guys are fucked up the same way I'm fucked up. I'm gonna be hanging out here now.
Yeah, we have a language and we have an understanding. I may have just met you, but I know I feel one with you.
Exactly. I mean, comedy's such a raw thing. I think comics, by and far, majority are just like lonely, sad people. It happens.
Yeah, but then also I think very sensitive people and kind of people that are not one to mince words or to bullshit. Like you might extrapolate for purposes of a joke on stage, but
Right.
like at our core, I think most comics are like big thinkers,
Super analytical,
want to have interesting ideas, have ideas outside of what you can probably talk about with your family or so-called normal people
right.
in the party.
No, I mean, I feel comfortable on stage. Honestly, I love being on stage.
That's where I feel most comfortable.
Yeah, I don't know. That again, that's something fucked up with us, because what's the number one fear of most Americans?
Public speaking.
Exactly.
But our fears are from all the things that normal people aren't afraid of.
Exactly. Why can't I find a job? I can't go to the post office today. Like all that nonsense.
That's the greatest irony. But I think there's hope for us yet. I mean, I struggle for a long time, and this is how I'm going to tie it up with a nice little bow.
Okay.
With being a rugged individualist, of being like no one around me, and I dispelled team sports after a while because I never felt a kinship with anyone on my team. Like if I had the same level of connection with the kids I was playing soccer with as I do with comics, probably would still be playing soccer.
Hopefully.
But we do a team sport now.
Yeah, sport. That's
Sport.
that is very kind.
We do a team game.
Yeah, team gaming.
So if you don't know this, me and Mark are both on the Creek and the Cave Spinball team, the Midnight Vultures,
named after the classic Beck album.
The instantly classic Beck album.
I don't know, even a fan of Beck.
I like if he comes on, I'm like, okay, I can deal with it. This is all right. How does pinball start for you? Because mine was relatively recently.
Oh,
it was
really?
when the Creek got pinball machines. Is when I was got back into it.
Well, I mean, I was playing pinball at the Creek and Cave because, they have like at least 8 machines there set up, suck up money. And, it was just kind of a fun thing to do, kill some time.
Sure.
I mean, the Creek is such a great venue. And I guess I played it enough and, got high enough scores that one day, it was actually, I think, in February or March of this year. And just Tim Warner, team captain, another very funny comic. He just kind of taps
I'm going to get him in here.
Oh, God, please do. Please get him in the ring.
Yeah.
He just kind of came up to me one day and tapped me on the shoulder. And he's like, "You're on the team." I was like, "What team?" I didn't even know there was a pinball league, let alone the Creek had a team, and the people were looking for, new players. So just Tim tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, "You're in it." I was like, "Yeah, cool." So, and that's kind of how I was indoctrinated in.
Yeah, that's sort of what mine was. I happened to be playing. I was playing Sopranos, and I got like 70 million on one ball.
Yeah.
And
that's impressive.
Yeah, and I haven't done that well in a while, but it was a really, really good run I was having. And then Rebecca, the owner of the Creek, was also asked me, I was playing, and she's like, "Are you secretly really good at pinball, Will?" And I was like, "I'm getting better." And then Tim came up to me. I was having dinner with my girlfriend, and was like, "What's your email? I want to have you on the team."
Yep.
And
yeah, you came around at like our third match, right? When we were at that bar in Williamsburg. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It's like on like North 6th Street or North 7th Street.
I know the one you're talking about. I can't remember what it's called, but it has like
Great Bar Harry or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Oh wait, the first one I had was in the first match I was at. I don't know if you were at this one, but it was in Park Slope. The only machine they had was Mustang, and
No, I was
we
not for that
swept
one.
them.
Didn't see that one.
That
no.
one was a good day. That was a good day.
We had some really great games last season, dude.
We did. We had some really good team performances, and it was so heartbreaking that we came so close.
Honestly,
to winning it all.
I hate saying this because she's so nice, and I have nothing but love for her. But Shelby, I feel like Matt Anderson, his girlfriend Shelby Taylor, another comic in the scene. Hey, Shelby, we celebrated a little early.
I feel like
I feel like
I definitely feel like we all
mentally-
kind of did too. Like if I had known that there was champagne after we won, I would have felt better.
No, I feel like we got ahead of ourselves. We got our 8 points almost right from the get-go, so we just need literally one more point, after halftime or after one more game. That's all we had to do, just get one more game, and we mentally checked out because we assumed someone else would pick up the slack, and we just let it go away.
Exactly.
We have to remind ourselves that team is as good as we are.
Yeah.
We can't fucking slack around them because we've coming back from that deficit a couple of times.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Like we pulled out, I think, arguably some really great upsets against teams that I think had been together longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then because also and usually it's also in our house because you can't fuck with us in our
fuck
in our
no.
in our
We were
house.
undefeated at home. Undefeated at
Yeah.
home. 6-0.
Exactly, and that's what I hope we do. That's what I hope we do this season. So, if anyone follows the New York City pinball scene,
All 5 of you.
all 5 of you, this is for you, and I appreciate you being here. So, Creek in the Cave, pinball all the time and comedy.
Yeah, Fall League. Yeah, I love that, like this kind of life of just pinball and comedy.
Yeah, and that's sort of like our band. That's like
Yeah.
our band now, since neither of us are in a band.
Exactly. It is our team. It is what we get around together, and we have our one assignment, our one creative thing, if you will. I wouldn't call pinball creative, but it's like our thing that we're involved in, and we just sit around and bullshit and talk, and then we have our matches, and we all come together as a team on that one.
Yeah.
It's great because we're the only team I know for a fact in our division that was like actually gave a shit about how Will's playing. I'm gonna go support Will, or Welty he's doing Whitewater, and he's going up against their team captain, so we're all gonna root for him and get really into it.
Yeah.
Like, we really did treat it like a fucking team match.
Yeah, like we were all there. Like we were all there for each other, and I think that was rare.
It was so great. Oh my god! And it just made the comebacks that much sweeter. Because I remember, like, I had this one great ball. I was in a deficit hole. I had to like fucking rack on my third ball, and I did. I just rallied.
Yeah.
And I had my music and my headphones in. I was just in my own little zone. I won, and then I turned around. And everyone was just like high-fiving me. It was everyone was there for me. It was so great.
Yeah, and that's like our positive, like almost sports moment that if we had when we were younger, we probably wouldn't be comics.
Oh, so true.
Oh, but did I kill you?
Nah, I just water.
Good. But we've got it all, Mark Reiss, and I think we're gonna only get more as we grow.
We just have to do better than last season, which is second place in the entire conference. So
yeah. So number 1, we're coming for it this year.
Oh yeah,
So,
we're coming for your asses, pin babes.
yeah, we're gonna take it all this year.
Oh yeah.
Throwing the gauntlet down.
No, I'm in this shit to win this season.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Thank you for talking to me, Mark.
Oh man, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun, Will.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Okay, so real quick, before I let you guys go for the week, I want to share the 5th thing that Mark and I discussed that he couldn't remember during our actual conversation. He messaged to me, pushing through the fear is less frightening than living a life led by uncertainty. So, if there isn't a greater pearl of wisdom to take with you, then I don't know what is. And just another little update, me and Mark talked about our pinball team team's upcoming season. We actually ended up the round before the round that would have been the championship. We actually lost by a very close margin. It happens, but we'll be back next season, I'm sure. So anyways, that is the show. I hope you guys liked it. I personally got a lot out of that conversation, and I had a great time talking to Mark. So I hope you did too. So go to my website, willcareyisfunny.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter at comicwillcarey. And again, I'll link to in the description below all the relevant social media portals. And if you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend. Thank you for listening. I will see you next week between awesome and disaster. All right, goodbye.